Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are the Seattle Kraken.
All right, Kraken fans, welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken. I am your host, Erica Lindsay Ayala. As always, we want to thank you for making Locked On Kraken your first listen of the day, especially on a day that is International Podcast Day. We hope that you are locked on the entire Locked On NHL network and the Locked On Podcast Network today of all days. So make sure you give some love to your favorite podcast. All right, as promised, I'm going to take you to part two of our interview with Tera Black. But we're going to take you first to the former Calgary Flames captain, Mark Giordano. He had a pretty good night for the Seattle Kraken as they get the 4-3 win over the Calgary Flames out in Calgary. And Mark Giordano spoke to media prior to the game out in Calgary. So we're going to take you over there shortly. Then we'll have the conversation with Tera Black. It's going to be talking again about Willie O'Ree. And I'll give you a few things at the end that if you want to talk about the sport and where hockey is regarding anti-racism, some resources that I highly recommend. Then we are going to close out the show with a clip from Dave Hakstol. He talked after the win in Calgary, but I thought he said something really important about the loss to Edmonton that is really going to impact, I think, the rest of the preseason and training camp, and is apropos to have for part two of the Tera Black conversation, because I think his assessment of those prospects in camp is definitely going to be a direct link to who we see in the AHL as a part of the Charlotte Checkers this year. So first, let's get you Mark Giordano.
I'm sure I'll hear a lot of chirps tonight and all that, but it looks like they're dressed in a pretty good lineup, so it'll be a good game to get into.
We don't see a lot of 900-some game veterans on the road in the preseason. Did you ask for this one?
Yeah, no, I think just our schedule, like looking at it, we only have what do we have? 4 games left. I think being a new team, we got to get familiar with each other and play games. So it's actually, to be honest, in preseason, it's actually better sometimes to play on the road. You play better lineups, especially early in camp, and looking forward to it.
Been kind of wrapping your head around the first game back in Calgary, whenever that was going to be. Like, what are you imagining? What is it going to be like?
I don't know. Tonight's going to be pretty cool, I think. But the regular season one, I'm sure it'll be full building. Just a lot of memories. I think it's going to be weird for sure tonight coming in here. I'm actually glad to get one under my belt here early in my time in Seattle here, and then the one in December will be special, but it's going to be a big game for sure. It's going to be a divisional game in December. It's going to be a pretty big game, but yeah, just looking forward to really playing the other night in front of the fans was cool, man. Like, we haven't played in front of fans in a long time, and to get to Spokane, and I'm looking forward to getting back here and playing in front of these guys again too.
Schedule, like, while you're in here, you got to get home, cut the grass or anything? You sold the house, like, is there anything to kind of clean up here in Calgary?
Yeah, no, just still have my place here, have people in and out, obviously keeping an eye on it, taking care of it, but no, we got in late last night from Edmonton, so just went to the hotel and pregame skate this morning.
And so that was Mark Giordano talking about coming back to Calgary and finishing off with know that he has not made any plans to take care of his property out in Calgary. For his trouble, though, I'll tell you what, Mark Giordano ends up with the first goal in the game against Calgary goes 5-hole. And what I really liked about the breakdown, as I'll play that for you in a little bit, is that we're seeing so much chemistry already with Eberle, Schwartz, and McCann as the centerman there. And Giordano and Larson are the defensive pairing on that top line, at least in Calgary. Planning to head to practice today. I know that Coach Hakstol will probably say that he's still figuring out pairings and whatnot. And I think some of that is true, but I really like what we're seeing with what appears to be and what will likely be the top line. Schwartz had 2 goals. Eberle 2 assists, just an aggressive forecheck overall. So before we get to the Tera Black part 2, let me just show you the warm reception that Mark Giordano got after he scores against his former team.
Pass, Schwartz at the line, and now Jared McCann by Eberle. Here's Giordano. He scores! How about that? Mark Giordano goes 5-hole on Dan Vladar.
But I'm gonna show you this right here. So I paused the video. Look at this pass. If you look at the pass, Schwartz is gonna pass it along the boards. Eberle is right over here, and he's gonna let that pass trickle through. He's going to let it go through. So he's attracting these 2 defenders right here. You're going to see Gio come in, and he's got the other Calgary defense trailing him. I just thought it was a really heads-up play. So, all right, here we go. Let me play it for you. So, all right, we see Schwartz right there in the middle. Now he's got the 3 defenders here. He's coming in, and this pass from Schwartz goes through Eberle, and Gio's right there.
By Eberle, here's Giordano. He scores! How about that, Mark Giordano?
I just really like that play. I like that. Again, I think it speaks to the chemistry. All right, let's go over to the rest of the interview with Tera Black. Again, we're going to talk about the legacy of Willie O'Ree and some of the experiences that Tera Black had. I told you, I'm definitely going to 80s night for the Charlotte Checkers if I'm in town for it, because that fanny pack sounds amazing. All right, coming up next, the part 2 of our conversation with Tera Black, who is the COO of the Charlotte Checkers and the first woman to have her name on the Calder Cup, and the first woman to win Most Outstanding Executive in the American Hockey League. And I know what it's like to be in North Carolina and have some of the great barbecue down there and just some of the staples, whether it's cookout or, fell in love with hush puppies going to school in North Carolina. All of the things. But you mentioned that there is a culture of people coming to Checkers games from around the country to maybe get to see their team. And in the Seattle Kraken, if there are any Kraken fans in the Southeast, they can come to a Charlotte Checkers game and get to see some of the prospects. But if they're in town for a hockey game, they might as well stay for something else. Tera, what would be some of the things that you would highly recommend fans do when they're in the area?
Well, I'm an outdoor type of person, so I would highly recommend the U.S. National Whitewater Center, which is where it's a whitewater center, so you can go rafting and kayaking, and there's ropes courses. It's just a really great way to spend some time outside in the beautiful North Carolina environment. It's a beautiful state. We've got the beach about 3 hours away. We've got the mountains about 2. So whatever it is you're looking for, it's basically in your backyard. Obviously the football team, the NFL Carolina Panthers are here, so I would recommend that. I'm a fan of all of our sports teams here. We all work together to do some pretty great things here. So obviously the Hornets are here, and the NASCAR Hall of Fame is here, and that's pretty remarkable. So yeah.
Well, you mentioned outdoor sports, and although the vastness of the mountains may vary a little bit in North Carolina compared to the Pacific Northwest, I think some of those activities you can definitely enjoy in both places. So if people are coming from where I happen to be right now in Seattle, they can definitely enjoy some of that outdoorsy stuff and, choose their own adventure food wise. Like I said, hush puppies are my jam, but I pretty much only eat them when I'm in North Carolina.
Yeah, hush puppies are something to behold. Those they're so good. And I didn't, obviously I'm from the West Coast, so I had never had one until we arrived here in Charlotte. So, oh my gosh, they are delicious. So I would highly recommend those. Yes, Southern food in general is just amazing.
Yes, indeed it is. But Tara, I teased this earlier, and I'm not going to let you off the hook without at least me giving you a little bit of shine, or as we say, of course, in hockey, some stick taps. But I alluded that your father-in-law might want to update his hockey quiz because you could be a part of those hockey quizzes as the first woman to have her name engraved on the Calder Cup, as well as the first woman to win the James C. Hardy Award given to an exemplary executive. And so when you hear those things, Tara, we've heard a little bit about your background. We've heard about the serendipitous opportunities, but also your willingness to take on challenges and learn something new. But those are two pretty big accomplishments. What would you say to having those on your resume and what it took to be able to be a woman leading as an executive in hockey?
Yeah, I mean, I think those two things are things that I'm very, very proud of, and not necessarily because they boil down to just me. It's having my name on the cup is representative of the army of people that helped us get to that common goal of hoisting the Calder Cup that season, right? So I think, and similarly, it's the James C. Hendy Award. That again is a testament to everything that goes into making something happen, and it's never done alone. So I would love to just say, oh yeah, that was all me, but that's just lunacy, right? It is my ability, and I would take credit for this, to assemble incredibly talented people that love to work, but also love this game and are in it not necessarily because of the millions and millions of dollars that you make, right? Because it's not that at all. It's about the love of the game, that you feel like you are not at work when you're participating in this industry. It's just it's a great place to be. I'm obviously incredibly biased about hockey because it's been all I've ever known, and my entire career has been in this sport. But it's a remarkable sport filled with remarkable people that genuinely want to see people around you succeed. So both of those things, my name on the cup and the James C. Hendy Award, represent the litany of people that have gotten us as the Charlotte Checkers where we are today. So those are two really important things.
Yes, well, congratulations and more success to come. And also, thank you for correcting me on the name. Yeah. It's sometimes hard to read my own handwriting, but yes, the James C. Hendy Award for Outstanding Executive of the Year.
I'm the award's right on my wall right here, as is the Calder Cup is in our office as well. So again, it's a reminder of so many awesome things that we all have done together, and the Charlotte Checkers in one way or another are going to be in the history books, which is something that's super cool.
It's fall, baby, and while that means preseason for us in hockey, it also means that folks are turning their attention to football. And as always, BetOnline is your number one spot for pro and college football action this season. There's an updated website, an updated interface, which means even more odds, even more props, more contests, and betonline.ag continues to be the number one source for everything football, including that there is 100% sign-up bonus. If you sign up today using your laptop, your tablet, your smartphone, whatever you got, you can get a 100% bonus. That's double your initial deposit just for signing up for the first time, as long as you use our promo code NFL100. But don't worry, it's not just football, it's basketball, boxing, of course, hockey, and even your favorite Vegas casino games. So don't wait to take advantage of all of the amazing offers available in 2021. BetOnline is your fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. And I also want to tell you on this fabulous Thursday about DirecTV. This probably sounds familiar. You're trying to watch the Kraken game on TV, or if you're like me and not in the network, usually you have to stream that while also trying to stream the WNBA playoffs. Crazy WNBA playoffs. Check out my other show, Locked on Women's Basketball, for that. And then you're also trying to maybe do a bunch of other things while you're watching games. Well, DirecTV Stream is going to help you get your TV together. The great thing is also that there is no annual contract. So you can find all of your favorite shows, all of your favorite sports in one place, and you won't need any other devices after this. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. Head over to directtv.com to find out more about DirecTV Stream. Now, let's get back to the episode. Now, we talked earlier that, and you mentioned briefly that you had some time with the San Diego Gulls of the ECHL. Yes. And for those who may not know, the legendary Willie O'Ree, who will have his jersey retired this season by the Boston Bruins, spent time with that organization. Can you talk about some of the stories of being able to honor and celebrate the first Black player to make the National Hockey League, and maybe even some of the interactions that you've had with Willie, who we know is so engaged in that San Diego community?
He, first of all, he's one of my favorite people in this business. You would never in a million years know when you have a conversation with him that he has the history that he does, because he is that humble. He is funny. He's just he's a remarkable human being from the moment you meet him until every experience you have is good when you're around Willie O'Ree. So he was in our offices all the time, and I was there for several years, so about 5 or 6 years when I was working in the front office, and he would pop in all the time. That's his home. He was good friends with everybody in the front office. He ended up showing up to, I think it was my 30th or 32nd birthday randomly. Like, he came to the birthday party, and no one I, in my right mind, would have never expected Willie O'Ree to do that. So he's just that kind of guy. Like, he's got such a remarkable story to tell that everything he says, you're hanging on each word. He's funny. He's got, talk about stories of days gone by. That guy has all of them. And more importantly, he was the head of the NHL Diversity Task Force for a very long time. And what he did for educating the universe on how important diversity was in our game is second to none. And he's legendary for that. He's legendary for his career in this sport. He's legendary for his genuine love of this game and how well he treats everybody around him. And honestly, I have never heard him say one negative thing about anybody or anything ever. That's just the type of guy he is.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. Imagine Willie O'Ree showing up, and it sounds like you didn't know he was going to show up either.
No, he was, Brad Belland, who was in our office, is good friends with Willie O'Ree, and basically told him that we were gonna have some cake, and he showed up for the cake.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And always dressed to the nines with his hat. I love it.
He used to wear a fanny pack, like back in the day. Like, he used to wear a fanny pack that he took so much grief from everybody that saw him with his fanny pack. Like, it was so funny, but he just didn't care. He just wear his fanny pack.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Because the fanny pack was in for a moment there, and then it died a hard, painful death.
Yeah, and I want to say the fanny pack was a part of my birthday party or something, and he put it on. I can't remember, but the fanny pack was legendary for a very, very small period of time.
Oh my goodness, I love that story. And now look, the fanny packs they're back in style. They're
We
definitely
are having an 80s night here, and we are in the process of ordering Charlotte Checkers fanny pack. So,
Oh, okay. So everyone, fans, if you're going to make your way to a Charlotte Checkers game and you want to, in a very remote, random, and not connected way at all, be like Willie O'Ree, make sure you get tickets to the fanny pack, the 80s night, and get your fanny pack.
oh gosh, Willie.
Oh,
Willie.
good times.
Good-
Willie
good person.
O'Ree, such a great person. There are a lot of documentaries that have been made just chronicling his time, not only in hockey, but growing up. I know Bryant McBride has done such a fantastic job ushering in this new generation of hockey players to make sure that they not only know about Willie O'Ree, but as the educational pieces go, are learning lessons from Willie.
Yeah.
I certainly think we all can do that.
Yeah, and he's got a way about him that, like I said, makes you want to listen to every word that he says. So, yeah, there's no better ambassador for our game than him, in my very, very humble opinion.
Oh, absolutely. I've met Willie once or twice on the West Coast, actually, with the Black Hockey History Tour.
Oh, cool!
And, yeah, it was so cool.
That's awesome.
There is this activation that they had outside of the truck to teach young people how to play, street hockey. And at one point in time, he took a face off. Now, how old is Willie now? He's 80-something years old.
Yes, in his 80s for sure, yeah.
80-something years old. For those who don't know, he has lost vision in one of his eyes. That was before, if I understand correctly, before he even made his NHL debut.
Right.
And he's still winning face-offs against people 50 years younger than him.
He's a really good example of a body in motion stays in motion, and the more social and sort of interaction and doing new things that you do, you sort of stave off the aging process. And I feel like Willie looks the same today as he did, and he's always looked young. He's looked young his entire career, and so is his mindset, and you kind of feel invigorated after you've been around him for a little while.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's also telling that, I mean, if we're being honest, he got his fair share of hate and criticism just because of the color of his skin. Like, there's
Absolutely.
no getting around that. But even if you hear Willie talk about it, he doesn't stay stuck in that. It's very rare that he even goes back to that, even though we know of that history, because I get the sense for Willie, everything is about building what you want instead of staying in what was. And
Yeah.
I love that. I think it goes to what you were saying, that he just has never had anything negative to say. And I honor that. I also think, though, that if for his sake and for the sake of other players, and also if we're being honest, women, non-binary people, those with disabilities, we still need to find ways to lift up what we want. And sometimes that means by addressing what we don't. So
Right.
I think that Willie O'Ree, in so many ways, is such a great lesson to us all. Let's take a moment to tell you about one of our sponsors, rockauto.com. It is a family-owned business that has been serving auto parts customers online for over 20 years. Now, instead of having to go to a brick and mortar store, you get in your car that for whatever reason isn't working or looking the way you want. You get in that car, you think you're going to go to a brick and mortar store and you're going to get exactly what you need, get it fixed, and be driving off all pretty. But then you get there and you realize they don't have what you want. They don't have the specifications you need, and you're paying more than you ever thought you would. Not with rockauto.com. You can use your tablet, your smartphone, your laptop, and look at their online catalog, specific for your make, specific for your model, specific for your style, and get everything that you need in just a few clicks. Why have to work with all of that hassle by going to store when you can just do everything online and guarantee that you get what you want and you get what you need? So what we want you to do is head over to rockauto.com. Use, again, your smartphone, your tablet, your laptop, whatever you got, and check out all of the parts that they have available for your car or truck. So rockauto.com, again, is about amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Make sure when you head over to rockauto.com that you type Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. So go ahead, do it. Check out the amazing selection, the reliably low prices, all at rockauto.com.
Takeaway from Willie is that we need more of him. We just need more of him everywhere. We need more of him in our government. We need more of him in just in show business. We need more Willies in the world. And if so, I think it would just be a much, much happier place.
Well, I will not disagree with that. More Willies in the world, indeed. And Tera, hey, a few more yous, and I think we'll be all right, too. Thank you so much for not only your time on Locked on Kraken, but also everything that you're doing. Because, listen, we know that representation and visibility matters. And whether you know it or not, you are inspiring other people, not just women and girls, but certainly other people to take the opportunities that they're given and really run with the opportunity to learn something new. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me on here. It's been fun, and I'm looking forward to hearing more as the Seattle market develops, and such a great so many things they're doing right out there. So it's good that you're doing this, and I wish you the very best with your podcast.
Thank you so much. As always, I want to thank our guest, that being the COO of the Charlotte Checkers, Tera Black, for today. We had a great win by the Seattle Kraken this evening. I talked a little bit about that line, broke down that geo play, but now I want you to hear from Dave Hakstol. We're going to do that shortly. But before we do that, I want to remind you of some of the resources that I think are key for you to be able to continue this conversation about anti-racism. Now, of course, there's a situation that happened in a hockey league in the Ukraine. The IIHF has remained consistent with the ruling out in the Ukraine that we're really only talking about a 3-game suspension. And you see that a lot of people truly are fed up about this. JT Brown tweeted about it. John Forsland tweeted about it. Allison Lukin. Obviously, I'm following a lot of people from the Seattle Kraken beat to begin with. But I mentioned also that I do work with Black Girl Hockey Club as a volunteer. And this is a lot of what we're trying to do, is have conversations so that these things are really, truly unacceptable and are taken off the ice for good. We should not have players that come from that are historically marginalized in our society and players that other people deem not worthy of the sport. We should not have them having to self-regulate and having to pull themselves out of the sport because they have to endure racism. We shouldn't have to do that. And yet, here we are in 2021, at the tail end of 2021, and this is still what's happening. It's unacceptable. It truly is unacceptable. So stick taps to those who are making their voices heard, especially in allyship of Black players, of women, of disabled players, etc. And so I want to give a shout out again to Black Girl Hockey Club. Go check out Black Girl Hockey Club. And again, there's a new book that is out. It's called Game Misconduct, Hockey's Toxic Culture and How to Fix It. Evan F. Moore and Jasvinia Shah are the co-authors, with the foreword by Renee Hess, who is the founder of Black Girl Hockey Club. I've also mentioned before Bill Douglas and The Color of Hockey. That was an independent blog that is now on the NHL.com site. Every Monday, there's a new story for Color of Hockey. And of course, Soul on Ice by Kwame Mason also first was independent, just as a hockey-loving fan. And then now we see that the Soul on Ice podcast has been picked up by the National Hockey League. Now, what I will say is that there are a lot of independent people like myself that continue to do the work. And because we are not beholden to some of the rules and regulations of a governing body, I think it's important to hear what people outside of those entities are saying as well. So although I love the work of Kwame Mason and I love the work of Bill Douglas, I think also we have to continue to be critical of the National Hockey League, of the International Ice Hockey Federation, of the Premier Hockey Federation. We had the commissioner on, Ty Tamidia, here, of the PWHPA, the Professional Women's Hockey Players Association, and on, USA Hockey, Hockey Canada. Because if we don't, then we're going to see a situation like we did in the Ukraine, where a player who was being taunted with a very racially charged and racist gesture, has to remove himself for his own safety. Nobody had his back. And if anything about hockey culture, isn't that what we're supposed to do? Isn't that what we're supposed to do? Have each other's back? But as people of color, as women, a lot of times it doesn't feel that way. So let's get it together, hockey. I'm definitely going to continue talking about this. And no, not just in February. Forget that. All day, every day. There are Black people in this sport all day, every day. So we're going to talk about here on Locked on Kraken. All right, as promised, I want to get you to Dave Hakstol. I'm going to share the screen here in a moment, and you're going to hear from Dave Hakstol. I liked that while he could appreciate the win, obviously, in Calgary and in Spokane, he really was still challenging all of his team, but it sounded like especially some of those developmental players, because it was a young roster, a relatively inexperienced roster, and he really wants them to step up. I think that's as much truth as is there. I think it's also a directive, and it's probably something that he said in the dressing room, in the locker room, to his team. So very curious to hear a little bit more about that as the training camp and preseason continue. So again, we're going to take you to Dave Hakstol. Bring him up on the screen.
Well, comparing the three is, I don't know if I can go back that far. More similar lineup, obviously, to tonight as to game one. But, just in terms of, evaluating the competitive areas of the game, and last night's game, I mean, we knew we were outmatched and had, a couple of tough, matchups along the way, throughout that game. But that also provides you an opportunity when you have that matchup to make an impression and to go out and compete. And I thought we came up a little bit short there last night in terms of those individual competitive areas. When we stepped on the ice and one of the matchups wasn't ideal. And that's one thing that we wanted to correct coming into tonight. For the most part, we rolled our lines and just, asked the guys to go out and do their job and compete, throughout their shift.
So again, that's Dave Hakstol. See you later, Dave. That's Dave Hakstol. I like that. I think that's, especially it's a 6-0 game, right? There's a lot that can be improved. That being said, I think that there were a few prospects that really stood out. So we're gonna try and get to morning skate today. And of course, throughout the next 2 days of game days, or I should say practice today and then morning skate for Friday and Saturday. But for now, that will do. For Friday, we're going to get ourselves ready for another game. It will be the first Kraken game that I will be attending live, as it will be much closer to my digs out here in Seattle. That's going to be in Everett, and then the Seattle Kraken will wrap up their home games as far as the preseason in Kent the very next day. So that's Friday and Saturday. I'm going to be in Seattle for a little longer, so we'll probably have some stuff coming from morning skates and practice, etc. But for now, this is your host of Locked on Kraken, Erica Lindsay Ayala, first thanking you for making Locked on Kraken one of your first listens of the day, with, I'm sure, a lot of other podcasts around Locked on NHL and the Locked On Podcast Network. Happy International Podcast Day to all of those covering the Kraken beat. I know we have a few other podcasts that have popped up. I haven't listened to all of them yet, but I look forward to having some of you, hopefully, on the Locked On Kraken podcast. But a special stick tap, of course, to Sound of Hockey. They just celebrated their 3-year anniversary. I actually got some audio from Andy and Darren. It was just super loud, and the Kraken had just gone on the ice, so we're going to have to see what we can make work. But I didn't forget about you, fellas. Thank you for all that you've done to really create a community around NHL hockey, especially in Seattle. And yeah, that's all we got for today. I'll catch you tomorrow. Thanks again for listening to Locked on Kraken and making us your first listen of the day. Bye. Betting on the National Hockey League doesn't have to be a guessing game. If you listen to our new podcast, Locked on Bets, it's hosted by your boy Q and handicapping expert Lee Sterling. You get daily picks, blowout specials, wrong team favorite picks, and of course, Lee Sterling's lock of the day. Follow Locked on Bets, brought to you by betonline.ag, wherever you get podcasts. And again, happy International Podcast Day.